speaking about some support things, just going into the next incentivized testnet and mainnet. A few interesting keynotes that I have found while looking into our stats. JR is going to talk about the DAO update. He has a lot of great stuff. I read his document already, so very interesting to clarify where we're going and what we're going to be looking to do as we progress. Frederic and Big Jim have a presentation as well. It's a secret for now, but you can find out when we get there. And then we will answer any questions that we have in the chat. Just a quick reminder, if you look all the way to the right, the second button down right under the little chat thing is a Q&A. If you want to ask a question, you just type it in here. So I'll just go ahead and give an example. I'm just going to type, I have a question. And the question will pop up. So people can upvote that if they feel like it's a very relevant question, right? And then at the end of the session, we can answer those questions if they haven't been addressed. Super helpful. There's also polls that might pop up if we have a discussion to make right below the Q&A. And then if you want to see who's here, you can look at the people list right below that. So without further ado, let us go ahead and get started. So for the support updates for this month, typically what I normally do is we look at the Discord stats. I also been told specifically by my daughter, she wondered why there was no color in my slides when I was working on them. So this is Subspace all hands, updates and supports, now in color. So a couple interesting things that I found. I wanted to remind new and old ambassadors the layers of support. We do have some new ambassadors, so it's important to remember you don't want to just skip to the highest person that you could possibly go to. Try to talk to your peers first. Try to talk to your fellow apprentice ambassadors. And we'll get into that in a second. Node stats. What do they mean? What's going on with our nodes currently? What are the node runners using? This is going to be an important one, and you'll see why in a second. And then lastly, I always talk about this. I always try to project out where we're going to need help as support-wise, geographically, and potentially like, just tech-wise. So first off, just talking about the layers of support very quickly. You typically want to go to an L1, and I guess the L2 is going to be like your peer community member, just talking to each other in chat. It doesn't have to be an ambassador. It could be other community members that are just very knowledgeable about the craft. You do want to verify what they're saying is correct, obviously, if it's not coming directly from an ambassador or the team, specifically like a tech ambassador, who are typically significantly better at catching things on the fly. But otherwise, an L1 is going to be somebody like myself, other ambassadors that have taken the charge to help. I have a team of them, and they can be identified in a few ways. You'll see the support L1 thing on the forum. Just in general, all ambassadors are typically support. If you help even once a month, you're a support ambassador, basically, even if you're not on the team. And then on Telegram, we identify ourselves as ambassador. If you have your tag yet. If you don't and you're active on Telegram, you can just ask one of the mods or myself, and we can see if we can get you tagged with the ambassador tag. So current nodes. So I was looking at this telemetry, and I saw a couple interesting things. Number one, if you remember when we did our incentivized testnet back in the day, we had about 25,000 nodes running concurrently. There were some on and off, probably more than that. But concurrently, there was about 25,000 at its peak, if I remember correctly. We currently have right now 5,394 running on Subspace Gemini 3D. But if you take a look to the right of that, we still have 1,444 running on 3D. We still have a handful running on 3C, and so on and so forth. There are some ghost nodes the further down you go, because there's even still, it looks like people running Gemini 1. Some of them aren't actually truly active, but there are truly some that are in Gemini 2, 3, and 3D that are active. So we want to really do a good job of moving people to 3E, spreading the word, making them know that, hey, we're on the new version. Sometimes people start a node and they check out, but we really want to remind them, hey, if you're going to run a node, let's run it for a reason. Let's make sure you're on the right thing. I found it fascinating that basically if we were to add the 3D to our 3E, that we're basically not quite a third. Well, actually, it probably would be like about a third, a little bit over that of what we had when it was incentivized. Why this is important to me is every year that or not every year, every cycle that we've done our node projections and support, it starts with very little numbers, very few numbers. And then we have an explosion for incentivized test nets, and then it kind of drops back down, but the numbers don't quite go low, like super low. So if you think about it in trading, it's like we're getting higher highs and lower lows, or I'm sorry, higher highs and higher lows. That's what I'm looking for. So we're having more people retain, more people running nodes, and more people actually synced to those nodes. So as we get closer to mainnet, we're going to need as much support as we possibly can, because there's a good chance we're going to have even more this time. So this one is super interesting to me. I was looking at what are our node runners using. I was really surprised to see that operating systems, basically 99% of the people that are running a node currently in 3E, and this is on 3E by the way, are using Linux operating systems, and about only 12 people that are running it right now are doing Windows and then Mac OS. So this kind of checks out for me. When I was initially starting support, I had a really difficult time because there was a lot of Linux operators, and some of the commands weren't quite the same. So I'd have to learn the Linux commands, learn what things were, learn what their issues were, what the troubleshooting was, what slight differences were. It's not like learning a different language, but it is a little bit different from my experience of just starting my own node and trying to troubleshoot. So that being said, if you do run on a Linux operating system, please be vigilant. If you see somebody asking for help with that runs a Linux operating system, which is one of the reasons that we ask what they're running, please help them. Second, are they using virtual machines or not? We have almost a whopping 90% of the people using one right now are using VMs. So this is another super important stat. I think it just kind of shows that I would assume that people that are using virtual machines are a little bit more versed in what they're doing. This isn't their first rodeo, because obviously they're setting it up for a reason, so they don't have to use it on their own computer. That's kind of where we're at right now. So if I haven't used a virtual machine before, this would be something fascinating for me to learn, and I think I probably will try to set a node up on one this go around, just to see what it's like. So, and then lastly, kind of where in the world is everybody kind of set up? A lot of North America, Europe, Asia, not a lot of the South American countries, and Africa. Africa is kind of still an emerging market in crypto. There's a lot of connectivity issues there for some of the areas that aren't fully developed. South America, I'm curious to wonder why. Maybe we're just not quite reaching them yet. So I'm very interested to know where we can expand South American wise and have ambassadors in place that speak those native languages, so that when we hit the ground running, that we already have support. Yeah. So as always, thank you. That was my support update. Always be vigilant now that we're going into better times, better markets. Checking links when you're providing them to others or seeing Twitter accounts. Please report, those scam accounts, especially when we get to the incentivized testnet. Scammers love to come out in the woodwork. So thank you for your time. I'm going to drop this down really quick, and I'm going to pass it over to J.R. Washburn. So, how are you doing today, JR?
Good.
Fantastic. So
excited to talk about the Ambassador DAO.
Let it rip.
So the Ambassador DAO is a new group that got stood up a few weeks ago. I've taken on the lead role to support that effort, which to me is really a support role. And I'd like to get a bunch of engagement from the community. I want to talk a little bit about what it is, and then what it's not. So the Ambassador DAO working group is responsible for creating the governance and the structure around the Ambassador group program in itself. Today, a lot of that heavy lifting has been done by Subspace Labs and the Liberty that are governing the community. And we're looking to create something that can be self-sustaining and self-directed and self-governing. So we're going to be working on creating the policies for how do people join and leave the program? What does onboarding and offboarding look like? how does the DAO act in the ecosystem, or the ambassador group really act in the ecosystem, and then create frameworks to have agreements with the other parties in the ecosystem, whether that's with Subspace Labs and how allocation vesting grants go, whether it's community. It is not the Subspace DAO or the Subspace Foundation or the governance of the protocol, and it's not going to have treasury. It's not going to necessarily making protocol decisions. So this is really governance framework for the ambassador program and for this part of today. It could evolve to have more of a governance role in a future foundation as Subspace Labs, evolves and where that heads. If there's a Subspace DAO, maybe it'll have a representative on that. Maybe it'll be an initial pilot testing ground for mechanisms that may be adopted by other groups that are going to be in the ecosystem. It could be a platform to help grow into a community-wide DAO, other things. But so I'm thinking about this as a playground to try governance mechanisms, to figure out what's working, what's not, and the goal being to really help self-manage and self-direction for the ambassador group as well. So, as I said, we really just got started. Today, there's been a couple of calls to just talk about what, understanding what is this thing, defining the boundaries and the scope. Some of that's coming from Subspace Labs with what is sort of powered to be done here. There's been a couple of initial conversations. All that work is available and happening in Discord. What we'll be working on next is what's the membership of this DAO? Is it just the ambassadors? That's a pretty simple answer. But should it be more expansive? Should there be other parts of the community? Could somebody that's maybe not an ambassador but active in the Subspace community have some representation in the Subspace ambassador DAO? Should Subspace Labs have representatives there? What sort of mechanisms are we going to use to make decisions? Is going to be sort of majority rules democracy? Is it representative? Will we use liquid democracy? Will we have vote weighting if we have other parts of the community involved? So a bunch of conversations and decisions to be made about how do we want to make decisions, and how do we express authority, and a lot of work to be done there. And I think it's important that we really have contribution and involvement of this community. So I'm really looking for engagement from any of you that are interested. Ask for that 3 times. I don't want to be having 1 or 2 people work on this, and then I'd really like this to be a collaborative effort with everybody. Many people want to contribute, and we certainly won't adopt anything without getting broad community support. So, yeah, please get involved. We need help. If you're interested in these kinds of topics, if you like politics, if you like about governance mechanisms, jump in. Ambassador DAO group in Discord. The next steps, I've talked about some, but really what we're trying to do is draft the governing agreement. So there will be written agreements about how to make decisions. What are the financial agreements? Agreements with identity. What are the rights and responsibilities? How do we work? I imagine this expanding to govern things like how do we stand up a new subgroup? How do we create a new ambassador group that's going? So the goal is to create a bunch of those documents and then share them with the community. Get however many rounds of feedback and discussion we need to get to an agreement on them, and then oversee the governance protocol itself once that's established. So definitely need help. Please jump in Discord and let me know how you want to support this effort.
Great, John.
Talk about questions.
Yeah. Thank you very much, John. Just a quick comment. I feel super excited about this Ambassador DAO thing. We've been going circling about it for a while. So a big shout out to Frederic for just pushing it forward to actually promote something that's going to be spearheading it. The first time we talked about it, Jonathan was he just got on his horse and rode straight in. So it was nice. It was refreshing. And just on a side note, like Jonathan said, if you're interested, please reach out or just try. When we do these ambassador OSs and it's like, hey, what have you done this month and stuff like that, it's okay to not have a packed resume. But if you're a star in your role, if you're good at what you do for a specific for specific group like support or the ambassador DAO or tech, just be good at that. You don't have to kill yourself trying to just get as much as you can on your resume. We just really want people that are enthusiastic about what you're doing. And if you do that, then I truly think that we'll be able to push Subspace forward much faster than you just doing things because you have to. So if you see anything that you're interested in, or if you don't see it and you would like to start it, please go ahead and message myself, message one of the leads. We can contact Frederic, and he's been very receptive to feedback and has moved quickly with changes. So with that being said, Frederic and Big Jim are going to be talking pretty soon here. If you guys want to go ahead and pop up your presentation, it should be in the studio. And after they speak, we will kind of have our Q&A for any questions that are left, or our round table as well. And while they are getting that all set up, I just want to add really quick, we do have our contest, our documentation contest, just to remind people. This is open to more than just ambassadors. So if you have a group of motivated people that this, $250 would significantly, help them, or if just in general, if this documentation is just their passion, they like to do it, they're good at it, try to spread the word. Okay. So with that being said, you can click on the link in the bottom. It'll take you to the docs page where it explains all the rules of that. All right, Frederic, Big Jim, you all good?
Sure. I'll pass the mic to Jim. I think the first two topics, he might want to cover the first two topics, unless, right, Jim? Or you want me to?
Sure, I can go first if you want, Frederic. So I've just got some admin updates, really, guys. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Jim. I'm the head of ecosystem here at Subspace. You can get me in Discord all hours of the day, usually. I don't get out much. But yeah, so we are switching to using emails as the primary method of communication with ambassadors. So historically, it may have felt like Discord was the primary channel, but we're going to need to get a bit more grown up as we talk about things like sending you documentation for token allocations. So with that in mind, a requirement of the program, we'll be updating the docs to make it a requirement of the program that there's we have an email for you that gets checked regularly. We will be sending out an email ping, which we will require a response to in a timely fashion. If no response comes back and we can't raise you through the other contact details you've supplied, we're going to have to assume that you're no longer active and take steps to offboard you. So it's not fair on ambassadors who are dedicated that there are inactive ambassadors, as we found. Quite a surprise to me, to be honest. So you don't need to worry as long as you have an email you can provide us, and there will be a grace period. We understand that people, have lives and could be on holiday. So as this is a policy change, there'll be a grace period. So if you come say, I didn't get the message, I didn't get the memo, that's fine. We will look at that on a case-by-case basis. But the emails are very important as we progress the ambassador P2P evaluation and automate that process. So yeah, number one, emails. Number two, guilds. So this is really just renaming what we call groups at the moment. So our support, our great new DAO group, content engagement, we're going to have guilds. And the main difference, well, there's no real difference between a group and a guild, apart from we can have multiple leads in the guilds. As we scale and as we get more ambassadors onboarded, we need to be able to scale the leadership of those guilds. It's not going to be a big change, but we can see that there are certain leads who are taking on a lot more responsibility than others. So we just need to make sure that we spread the load, and we're not without a lead while people are on holiday or living their lives. So yeah, number 2, guilds. Finally, Justin Subspace in Discord. He's putting together an effort to provide localization, so translation of our documentation. So if anyone feels like that's something that interests them, please drop a message in the ambassador chat, and I will put you in touch with Justin. It's early days yet. We think we've picked the right software, and we're setting up the framework to be able to kind of provide a base translation for the various languages we want to support. But we'd really appreciate ambassador effort. So if you want to put in some of your 4 hours a week for regular ambassadors into translation, that would be very much appreciated. And yeah, as I say, hit us up in the chat, and we'll get you connected with Justin. That's everything I had. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Frederic?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've been trying to share the PDF, and not sure everyone is seeing it.
Yeah, I popped it up because I wasn't sure if you were trying to get it up there. So I have your second screen right now. Would you like me to return it to the first, or are you okay with this right here?
No. It is. This is the first. Actually, I think Jim, I covered the first one. One key point to make the peer review work in an automated fashion, it is through emails, so that we know the identity of the submitter, of the identity of who is being evaluated, who are the evaluators, and really, like Jim said, communicating sensible information, like how much is your total allocation based on what parameters. This also all requires a source of truth in terms of communication that unfortunately the Twitter handle doesn't really offer. We often change our Twitter handles for whatever reason. So yeah, it is paramount for us to compile the list of emails. I've already sent out an announcement on the ambassador channel. If you haven't already, please, very please, just click the link and share your emails with us. It will be very, very useful to the entire ambassador program. There are also a number of tweaks we are projecting. Jim, do you want to comment on this, or do you want me to go forward?
So I think Fredik's underselling his effort here a little bit. What he's been able to do, quite amazing, really. He's managed to pull together what has been quite a kind of clunky process, the spreadsheets and kind of manual work involved in the evaluation process. He's put together a much more streamlined peer review automation. So were you planning on showing a demo, Fredik?
No,
is that what you had in the PDF?
I was on the second point, ambassador program tweaks, proposed adjustments. Like, for example, something we talked about, as the groups, the guilds expand, we might need more experienced, seasoned mentors and to provide guidance to the newcomers, especially, for example, in the support group that's getting really large, especially as we're pro mainnet. We might want to strengthen the guilds and maybe even add more lead mentors or lead ambassador to each of these guilds. I wondered if you had any comment to supplement that idea.
Yeah, sure. So it is just to, as I mentioned, it's just a case of making sure that we don't have anyone being overloaded. Being lead, there's a lot of responsibility there. There's obviously a bigger token allocation as well for leads. So as you know, watch this space as far as calls to action for elections and manifestos. We enjoy a good vote in the ambassador chat, I think. So yeah, the idea is that it gives us the framework to scale. The switch to guilds really is just a name. The structure remains the same, apart from this one change, which is historically we've had a lead per group, per guild, and we're going to change that going forward.
Right. Thank you, Jim. Well, the last one, I'm just representing Ivan. He might have a connectivity issue. Ivan, if you're there, please correct me on the chat if I say anything incorrectly. Ivan has been very committed, ready, and he committed a lot of effort and enthusiasm to craft what we call subspace transmissions, which is a more orchestrated and formatted way of promoting engagement quests. And we created a channel called Subspace Transmissions, where any of the ambassadors can actually make announcements directly to the community without having to actually go through Subspace Labs. Yesterday he announced the inauguration of this Subspace Transmissions initiative, and we eager to actually get kickstarted and launch the first quest as soon as we expand on our side our volume, so to speak, on social media. As we share more knowledge on social media, on our directive, on our narrative, on our roadmap, then the subspace transmissions will also jump aboard and help expand and augment and spread the word about this new vital information through quests that will eventually turn into a leaderboard and rewards to those who engage more actively. I don't want to, steal the shine of Ivan. I'll let Ivan then corroborate on the chat or make any comments on the ambassador channel. So that's what I wanted to underline.
That's pretty sweet. I know Ivan's been talking about this for quite some time, so I'm kind of excited about that. I think Subspace is great, but it's right now for the most part, it's the people that are kind of into the nitty gritty of crypto and understand it and want to try to dig deep and learn. So there's been a lot of initiatives to help people learn about Subspace and what we do, but this will hopefully really kick it off to a new sector of people that maybe just learn in a different way or engage in a different way. So thank you for doing that, Ivan. I'm excited about that. And thank you, Frederic, for the presentation. Big Jim.
Thank you.
So at the very, very bottom of the page, there's that green box that says all ambassadors update your email. If you're not sure where that link for the forums to update your email is, you can click that. It'll take you right to it. Submit the email of your choice and you're good to go. And once Frederic and Big Jim and the team move forward with starting to reach out and starting to clean all that stuff up, you'll be all set. So as far as questions, and at this point, it's a round table for everybody up here. If you want to talk about anything or ask each other questions about the DAO or the upcoming ambassador changes, please do. But the one question that we have today is Zug said, maybe we need to make a global announcement that Gemini 3D and 3C and even 2A LOL are not actually up. So that might be something to consider. I want to figure out how to try to engage with the people that are running their nodes, because they're obviously running nodes and they are synced. But there's a lot of virtual machines. So that's the one thing I noticed. It's not like they're just running it on their everyday computer and they have to look at it every day. And it's taking up bandwidth and taking up processing power. So maybe they really are just setting and forgetting, and it's not even crossing their minds. So how we reach out to those people is going to be an interesting topic. Announcements are good. Maybe we can try to remind people to push towards it. Maybe even use the urgency of hey, don't you want to be ready for the incentivized testnet? You should probably be on 3E because that'll be as close as you can get. So that's something to consider. So we'll think about it.
Mike. So I've got a theory. I mean, these guys are asleep at the wheel. I'm convinced that some of these guys have set up nodes and then forgotten about them. So I mean, if well, I guess they could be engaged, but they've just literally forgotten about their 2C node, which is running on some piece of kit somewhere, not using not using much resource, not enough to for them to notice. But yeah, it's amazing how some of the old 2A nodes are still up and going.
Yeah, it was kind of a little bit like I looked at it and I was like, oh wow, things I wasn't expecting today, July 17, 2023. So I think it's I also I'm not super concerned. I do feel like once we say there's an incentivized testnet or a mainnet coming, people will, they may grab the wheel again. And if we just specifically remind them, hey, we do have a lot of people running a full sync node on old chains that would not be rewarded with the incentives, I'm pretty sure they'll wake up. So that's just my 2 cents.
The joys of a permissionless network.
Yeah. So that was the only question we had at this time. And I just had a poll in the chat just to see how people felt about the market sentiment. Just a couple people voted, but it's uncertain. And I would say I probably feel the same right now. The only reason that I put that up and why it's important is because when the market's bad, typically people aren't having a great time and they're hiding. They're not doing the things that they normally do, joining Discords, learning about new projects. And as the market continues to get better, there was that blockbuster SEC ruling that XRP is not a security. And while XRP isn't directly related to Subspace, the market sentiment, as soon as that was announced, kind of went up. There's a lot of pumping and this and that. And again, the reason I say that is because as we get closer and closer to mainnet, it just happens to seem like we're falling into a good market cycle where there's much more active users looking to research and getting the projects at the ground floor. So I'm both scared and excited for how many people are going to need support in the fall and the winter of 2023 going into Q1 2024. So unless we have anything else, would any key things that we missed or any last minute shout outs from the panel up here?
Well, I just wanted to welcome the new cohort who just joined last week. The work they're doing. Also very thankful to the mentors who are helping them out. And yes, and thank you so much for everyone for your support and to make, to help us improve and expand the scope of this program. Thank you, Jonathan, for accepting the responsibility of orchestrating and design an architecture for the DAO that is of extreme importance to the future of the ambassador program. I just wanted to express that from my end. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Frederick. Jim?
I'll just renew the call to action. Please help with the DAO effort if you're interested. We definitely need.
And Mike, you're such a you play such a key role in this program, and we're very happy for your collaboration and putting all this together and uniting everyone. You are a reference to all of us. So yes, my gratitude to you as well for coordinating all this.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I've been with Subspace as an ambassador for years now for people who are new and don't know me. And I do love it. It's funny because, to be honest, Subspace was supposed to be more like a pit stop for me. It was just like a research that I was doing, looking for new projects. And I just was like, oh, this is everything I've ever wanted in crypto in my mind. So I'm excited to see it grow. I have personal, I'm the type of person that I want to see something grow from the ground up and contribute to it. And for it to be successful would be amazing to me. So, there's a lot of opportunity moving forward for you new ambassadors and for some of you that have been here for a while. Frederick, Jim, with the addition of Jonathan, they're really, really, all of us are trying to move forward with promoting people and getting people to the role that they deserve. So if you're passionate about something, please jump into it. Jonathan's a perfect example of that. He very much deserved the role that he got. And I'm looking forward to working with him. And that being said, I don't have anything else. Jim, you got anything?
I was just going to reiterate that, I think we're really lucky to have Jonathan in the role of lead DAO guild. is passionate about governance and democracy, you know, and fairness. And, you know, check out what's going on in the guild there, because it's a real opportunity to steer the protocol. You know, we, as Jonathan said, it's going to be a test bed, but it's definitely a route to being able to you know, provide feedback and influence the protocol eventually. The plan is that the Subspace will eventually be community owned, and you know, the guys who get on board early are likely to understand and have the most say later on. So yeah, check out the DAO is my final thought of the day.
All right. So thank everybody for that. I like to keep these, you know, all these spaces and videos towards the more digestible time. I just spent 2.5 hours of my time in a Twitter space one time trying to learn about a new project, specifically about a new technology. It's a new ERC NFT basically. But you guys can go learn that on your own. So we're coming in just under 40 minutes. I think this is a good time to go ahead and wrap up. We'll keep these digestible unless we have massive updates and the team's going to be here. But otherwise, thank you so much for coming. And we will see you in space another time, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.